More veterans have died by suicide than in combat post 9/11. That is the finding of a study done by Brown University's Cost of War project. Of course, we're here in Military City, USA, and PTSD Awareness Day is coming up on June 27th on Sunday. So as today's KSAT Q&A guest, we want to bring in David Dean, who is a 25-year Army veteran, the general manager of the San Antonio chapter of the PTSD Foundation of America, to help us educate ourselves and our viewers and raise awareness about PTSD. David, thanks for being with us, first of all. PTSD, it's something a lot of people have heard of, think they know a lot about, but give us an overview of what this condition is and some of the signs and symptoms of it.
Yes, ma'am. So PTSD is a completely natural reaction to an unnatural event, and basically is comprised of symptoms from prolonged suppression from traumatic events that we haven't addressed or been able to work out. And as time goes on, what ends up happening is everything is compacted. And so something small ends up being something big. An example of that would be if I ended up having somebody spill something at the house, and it would be a normal situation of that person wanting to have something taken care of. We ended up having an issue, and being able to express that in a fashion way is something that makes it very, very difficult to do.
When veterans come back from wars, some have scars, they've lost a limb, they've got a brain injury or something. That's easy to be able to see and to help somebody with. PTSD, oftentimes, you might not know that somebody is dealing with that. How can folks who are friends and family members, how can they be allies to someone with PTSD? What can they do to help them out?
Yes, sir. So basically what we try to do is get people to start working how to bridge with people, reaching out to family members, things of that nature, and reaching out to different types of therapies. There's all kinds of things that are out there. What we offer here at the San Antonio chapter is peer mentoring groups where we talk about issues, how they can identify what are certain aspects that are something that's keeping them from achieving what they need to achieve.
And that's the message that I want to make sure we get across, is that there are resources, there is help available. And so often part of that struggle is knowing where to turn for people, knowing what resources are the best for them. And I do want to talk a little bit more about what the PTSD Foundation of America does. And for anybody who's wanting to know how to get in touch with your organization, I'll mention the web address right now, ptsdusa.org. I want to also talk to you about perhaps some of the stigmas or the myths surrounding PTSD. Do you find that there are any, and that those are a barrier for people seeking help?
No, ma'am. PTSD is something that you can definitely work through. It is something that basically what we try to push is post-traumatic growth, which is the cycle in which a person can gain confidence and empowerment from having experienced a post-traumatic event and then grow from it. It's all about growth. And what PTSD does, is the symptoms involved with it, it prevents you from growing from it. You become stagnant. And so you're not able to interact. It creates isolation. And from that, it just spins off into worst scenarios.
You are a 25-year Army veteran. You were kind enough to share with us that you have had your own struggles as a veteran. If someone out there is watching, veteran or not, and they feel like they are struggling with PTSD potentially, what's your advice to them on what to do to seek help?
Yes, by all means, give us a call. We'll be more than likely to reach out to them and address the issues from A to Z, like what they're going through and how to identify those things that they need to start working through at a personal individual level. We offer group sessions, bridging out to people that you trust. There are different types of therapies out there, like equine therapy or horse therapy, that keeps you in the moment. There's other resources such as the VA, the Right Step, Starlight. These are facilities that are designed to address these kind of issues, and they have very good programs.
And there is a San Antonio chapter of the PTSD Foundation of America. David Dean, the general manager of that chapter, thanks so much for shedding light on this and for hopefully letting more people know that these resources and this help is available. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am.